Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Dev Spotlight series with MailChain. Um, really excited for our guest today. He's a big player amongst the ENS space. He's an ENS steward. He's been building incredible products for the ecosystem and Web3 in general for quite a while now. It's obviously none other than Slobo himself, the man, the legend. So I'm not going to go into any more detail. I'm going to hand over to you. Do you reckon you could give us a quick intro as to who you are and what makes you tick?
Sure. So my Web2 name is Alex Slobodnik, but on Web3, I am Slobo, and more specifically slobo.eth. That is my Web3 identity, and that's what I'm kind of all about. So I built several products, NftyChat, NameStone, and currently an active steward for ENS.
Yeah, so you're one of the, I don't want to say high-ranking ENS people, but you're really in the heart of the ENS ecosystem, and being an ENS steward must give you access to the wonderful breadth of stuff that ENS is doing and how vibrant the community is. There's obviously other communities that do similar things, maybe not to the same degree as ENS, but what is it about ENS that stood out for you and made you want to really get involved?
Yeah, so I don't think I would be in Web3 without ENS. I was aware of crypto for years and had some small financial exposure. And I started noticing more about crypto in general in 2017. And I noticed all these ICOs of varying quality that I kind of thought were mostly scams. And I'm like, I don't really want a part of that. Fast forward a couple of years, someone sent me ENS, and I'm like, oh, this is a credible, non financial use case. And because I spent a decade plus in marketing, I understood that a global username is so profoundly useful
Mm.
and it can't really exist in the Web2 world. And that's what really brought me in. It brought me in that ENS is that global username that anyone can use and make the user experience for everyone better, right? And
Yeah.
as much as a trope as it is, ENS makes the world a better place.
Yeah. So that it's really that persistent name and identity across whatever it is you're doing it online that attracted you. Because, as you say, it's not something you can really do in Web2. You're either stuck in the meta platforms with one identity that you've built for yourself, and then there's TikTok and LinkedIn and Spotify and like all of these other sites.
Plus, it's not your identity, right?
Yeah.
When Twitter rebranded to X, whoever had the handle of
Yeah.
@X goes away, right? It's not a self-sovereign identity system, and that means those companies can take it away.
Yeah.
But Web3 can be different, and that's really exciting, and that's why I just love this stuff.
I mean, that's the self-sovereign nature is really the USP, right? That you can create, own, and control your own domain name on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's not like Meta can just yank it away from you or Twitter and change it or impose rules on how you use it. Like, no, it can't be an email address, or no, it can't be a website or whatever. You own the domain and you have control. Yeah. So would you say that's the thing that draws most people to ENS?
I actually think because ENS is about naming things, it ends up drawing a lot of separate communities, right? Some could be about decentralization and creating uncensorable websites. Other people might enjoy it as a routing mechanism like MailChain, where you want to provide an identity to easily create a global inbox for you and people build on top of it. You have other folks that build a link builder kind of software. So because naming is at the core and identity is at the core of most products, it draws very distinct people. Plus, there are players in ENS who basically get grants to provide infrastructure for the
Yeah.
entire ecosystem. So you have all these different little pieces. And I feel very honored to be in a position where I can see all these builders and see what they're doing and get to learn a little bit about each of their communities.
Yeah. I think the grant system that ENS has in place, other granting bodies as well, to provide a means of continually upgrading something without someone having to be really deep in it is impressive. And I think it's one of the things that made Web3 accelerate so much in those early days. You can come along and you can apply for a grant to improve infrastructure that isn't yours, isn't anybody's. It's just better for everybody. That's one of the biggest and best things I think you can do as a developer. So you mentioned a little bit about the breadth of stuff that you get to see as an ENS steward. What's your favorite aspect of being an ENS steward? What's the thing that gets you excited about doing it?
Honestly, it's just being on the bleeding edge, right? I'm in a position to see how layer twos can work with ENS to make the UX better in this like super chain world that I think the entire community is still figuring out how it's going to be with all these different solutions. And you need some central point. I believe ENS is going to be that central point. So you can have an address on Optimism, an address on Arbitrum, and they all point to slobo.eth in a specific kind of way that allows other builders to abstract away the problems of all these different chains, because no one likes switching all these networks all the time. And it gets so confusing. And my address on one network could be different than another. Yeah. And ENS is the aggregation of your identities across the chains. Is just like, oh, I have the opportunity to witness the future being built. And that's just amazing.
I mean, it's so true. And I got into Web3 quite a bit later, and one of the first things I discovered was ENS, and I managed to lock down an identity for myself. And that was quite a while ago, and I've seen it evolve and become more and more useful. And I honestly believe, and this is my personal opinion, that ENS is one of the best onboarding tools for people into Web3, and ENS will be one of the first places that they go to create that cornerstone of identity, which is great to see. And I know that you're building tools like NameStone to help make that even more easy and affordable to do.
Yeah, so ENS is great, but on mainnet it costs $20, and depending on gas, even $100 during the bull market to register a name. And not everyone in the world has that much discretionary income. And I think everybody has a right to not only one, but multiple digital identities. And the beauty of it is Nick Johnson created CCIP Read, which is an EIP, and allows people to issue gasless subdomains. And that's what NameStone does. It makes it easy to issue gasless subdomains, which are effectively free for the end user. So no longer having to spend $20, you can spend $0 or a penny to do so. And that's what my company does. It makes it easier to issue those names, because sometimes the intricacies of working on ENS can be challenging for new developers or new people coming in, and they just want that one-stop shop. And I have this vision that NameStone and with the community would have something like, you come into Web3, you get your global username, you get a free NFT on Polygon or Optimism, and you're ready to go. You're just ready to be part of the community. And like you were saying, it's a great onboarding flow for new users.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic product and a fantastic service that you're doing to everyone, really. So, I appreciate that. And then obviously before NameStone, you were focused very much on NftyChat, which is a chat service for Ethereum and ENS to ENS names. What inspired you to build that in the first place?
Yeah, so I bought slobo.eth. I went to OpenSea. I connected my wallet, and I saw that global user identity come with me. And like I said at the beginning, my name is Alex Slobodnik. I've been Slobo to my friends since I was a kid.
So you've had that identity for a long time. Yeah,
I've had that identity. So here I'm Slobo. And the moment I had this global identity, it just made it so much sense to just chat from it. And I was looking at Discord and all these things and all the scams that were going where you have to validate your own address. It was so silly. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's a better way. And NftyChat was kind of born out of that idea. So that's been a fun process. It's live. And, I've had over 10,000 people use the product and chat, and communication keeps going. But the thing I realized is that 70% of the people on NftyChat didn't have an ENS name because it was expensive. So the first version of NameStone was just issuing free Nifty names on NftyChat. And then so many people liked it that this could be its own standalone product category. And to be honest, that's been materially more successful because it's more applicable to a wide variety, where NftyChat is just focused on a small niche. NameStone can service anyone, exchanges, wallets, what have you.
What an incredible journey to go through. Like, that's proper user experience testing. You experienced it yourself. You got your ENS. You went on OpenSea, like you saw it come with you. Then you went, I'm sick of these Discords. And that was a proper journey. And then you exposed it to more people and were really able to learn where you could help the most. That's one of the things that I'm sure developers from whatever background really aspire to be able to do, is to learn about and build something that's actually wanted and desired.
There's just a lot of opportunity in Web3, a lot of
Yeah.
UX opportunity. And there are brilliant people working on the smart contract side. But I think there's plenty of innovation available for people who are interacting with apps with just a sprinkle of smart contracts and building on other smart people's work to actually create those good user experience, because no one developer can do it all.
No. And that's actually a very interesting point as well. There is definitely a weighting. If you looked at all of the developers in Web3, there's definitely a weighting much more towards the smart contract development stuff than there is to good user experience and front end design. Currently, anyway, I'm sure it's changing all the time. But and we're starting to see a little bit is there are existing applications that are starting to add Web3 functionality. They've been around for 5, 6, 7 years or whatever in the Web2 space, and they've started to add connect by wallet or sign in with Ethereum, etc., which is starting to open up and improve the user experience in a big way, I think. So I'm looking forward to seeing over the next few years the improvement in user experience and user experience design in a lot of ways. Awesome. So what are you developing next? Is it still something with NameStone? What are you building towards?
Yeah, I'm 100% devoted to NameStone and improving that. Because it's an API product, there's a lot of interesting things you can do to add as you're working with more customers. So one example, we recently added the ability to have a coin type specified. And I know this might be a little bit technical, but you can now designate a Bitcoin address or an Optimism address that's associated with your ENS name, which was always part of the protocol, but wasn't part of our product. And that lets, again, a broader number of people using that. We also build better admin panels so people who aren't technical are able to manage their subnames for their business, right? If you've issued, we have a customer, Obvious Wallet, who just issued thousands of names for obv.id. And if they needed to change something and they didn't want to use the API, they have a nice admin panel to use to modify user requests. And those are the little features that are kind of hidden that makes our product easier, because interacting directly with the protocol, you're not going to have that GUI. And if you're not a developer, and developers are expensive, so it's great to have a product person or a community manager go in and just edit the things that need to be edited to provide great customer experience for these third-party products like wallets. So that's where all my time is. And then I try to write content that hopefully makes sense as I spread just a word of ENS. Spreading ENS is spreading NameStone. And I love that kind of synergistic relationship.
Yeah. And it's nice to have customers that it's very obvious which features are going to benefit them, because I'm sure you have a humongous list and roadmap of all of the features you would love to add, but knowing which priority to put them in and who it's going to support the most is only ever really going to be validated by customers and users, which is not always obvious or always easy to do.
I love customers. They tell me most of my roadmap, and really my job is to make sure to not implement a feature that precludes other features in the future.
Yeah.
And I love working on something that is being used, because the information that they give me is the thing that makes my product better and is slowly building my competitive moat. Because that's one thing to consider when you're building on an open protocol is what's your moat? And my moat is really my customers and the insights that they're delivering to me.
And the reputation that you build.
And the reputation and the trust, right? Branding, marketing, an image of trust, NameStone, it's very solid.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much of your time do you balance between doing ENS things and doing NameStone building stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wish I had a great answer. So I don't know, because so much of it is intertwined, because sometimes I'm in the room where I can provide a builder's perspective on some of the stuff that's going on the protocol level. And is that my role as a steward? Is that my role as a founder that's building on top? I don't know. So it's all kind of mixed. I work more hours than I probably would like. And I tend to devote a decent amount of time being a steward and talking to builders, all those builders that I was talking about earlier, my
Yeah.
relationships with, companies like MailChain, they're both there, and that's where a lot of my time is spent. So some weeks are pretty rough, but I wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Absolutely not. No, it's nice to be able to see the system from both sides. Sometimes that's a real benefit to have.
And I think that's what's really useful for ENS as a protocol, to have a builder who's so deep into it, where it's not just one perspective. And I'm just technical enough to be like, this might be problematic, or like, oh man, this is so great, I can't wait till it's out. And I'm just excited for other builders in the community to see what I get to see sometimes.
That's so good. We love the ENS community. We're on as many of the talks as we can be on in the spaces, and we always walk away either with new friends and connections or learning something new nearly every single time. So credit to you and the team. Really good. Cool. One of the things we always ask is, do you have any advice that you could give to someone that's either starting out in Web3 for the first time, either as a brand new developer or they're already a developer and they're building on it? Do you have any advice on how they can get started or any pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah, so my biggest advice is find a community of builders that you can hang around with. And so that's first. And second, dip your toe in, right? Start building something. And the moment you start building something, the process of solving it could be a hobby project. It will show you all the gaps. I would love to say that Web3 is solved, but there's so many problems in it that those are all opportunities. And they're like impossible to see when you're looking from a hill. But once you touch anything, there's an opportunity here, an opportunity there. So to quote Nike, just do it. Just come in, start building, start doing something. And you will instantly see opportunities, and whatever your individual unique background is, it will find use, because we need that talent. So yeah, and there's just so many things, and you don't need to be a Solidity developer. There's many different ways you can do that. Or if you are, there's opportunities for you there as well. Like innovate, give things a try, maybe try hackathons.
Well, hackathons are a great way to get started and meet like-minded people. And you don't have to do them in person. You can do virtual hackathons. They're very popular. So yeah, we always recommend that as well as a good way to start. And as we were mentioning earlier, you don't have to become a Solidity expert or a smart contract expert overnight. If you have some front-end experience, you can team up with someone that's maybe a little bit more experienced than you and learn from them the bits that you don't know and assist them with the front-end pieces that might otherwise be more difficult to do and time-consuming to do.
And I just corrected the README file, which didn't require a lot of technical ability. I mean, if you can just submit a PR, and they merged it, right? So now you become an open source contributor, and at least that person who runs that project knows who you are and you've contributed and you started that process. And anyone can fix a README file, because that's just like, hey, is this clear to me? Is this grammatically correct? And a lot of people are so welcoming. Just go out there, search, and just go where your interests are. And I'm sure there's something Web3 related there.
Just get stuck in. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I want to just quickly hand it over to you and say, how can they find out more about you? And more importantly, want to get involved in ENS and start learning more about it. What's the best way for them to go about doing it from a steward point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing, I encourage people to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Alex Slobodnik on Twitter. Follow NameStone HQ, and join the ENS ecosystem calls that happen every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. My DMs are open everywhere. So yeah, that's the best way to learn and reach out to anyone in the community.
Like you said, just do it. Go and get involved.
Just do it.
Thank you so much again. Have a fantastic day, and hopefully see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.